if I keep it secret, then I tend to work on it, a lot more. So I'm the same way.
I totally understand you. Right now we are live in
Okay,
YouTube, so
cool.
I'm going to start talking in Spanish for a bit. Just,
Sounds
you
good.
So, a todos los chicos que están conectados en este momento, buenos días. Buenos días, empezamos un poquito más tarde, pero váyanse conectando, váyanse alistando, vayan avisándole a sus amigos que ya estamos en vivo, ¿listo? Entonces, so we are going to start, like, we're going to wait for a minute, so a lot of more people get into the streaming.
Sure.
So, let's give them like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Come on, guys. Chicos, empiecen a compartir todo esto, que más personas se enteren y lleguen a la charla. So, first of all, I'm going to write someone.
Oh,
Okay. So, first of all, thank you very much for being here.
yeah, no problem.
It's so cool to have you here in the Crad live streaming. This started as as something just for one or two or twice, but it's been 26. This is the 26th
Wow.
Crad live, and we've had a lot of great guests here. We had Daniel Bell, 3D sculptor from Argentina, Steven Corman from Belgium. We've had Rafater from Spain, Andrew Ariza from Colombia that's working in Sony Santa Monica. A lot of great artists here, and now you here. It's an honor to have you here. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation.
Of course. Yeah, it's an honor to be here for sure. I'm super excited that it's going so well for you for the streams. That's great.
Oh, thank you very much. This wasn't planned, but it's been a good growing and a good project right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, maybe that's how a lot of stuff starts, like you start by experimenting on something and then maybe it starts, catching on. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. Actually, yesterday I was talking to you that I did a festival
Yeah.
from universities showing their artwork and academic artwork, and it started like 3 weeks ago. I had an idea, we were going to do this, and now it's like a big thing, and this is going to be keep being done every year. So it's so crazy.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
let's see, Jan. Hello, Jan Spinoza. So let's see. I think we can start now, and people are going to get into. Okay, I'm going to share your station as well here.
Okay. My cats are kind of going crazy right now, so if you hear any weird meowing, that's why.
Why?
They go crazy after they eat. I don't know why.
Okay. No, I couldn't. Okay. So let's start because it's so early in the morning. Thank you very much for getting up so early. I know it's not easy for you right now. It's 3 hours ahead here.
Yeah, it's pretty early, but it's worth it.
It's worth it.
I get to see the sunrise right here, so
Oh
it's really
yeah,
nice.
so it's going to be a really good view from yours. Cool.
Yeah.
You're in San Diego, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So let's get started. First of all, thank you very much again for being here, and
Of course.
welcome to this Crad live sessions. It's a cool talk, a chill talk about you, just to get to know you. A todos los chicos que están conectados, Juan David Granados, mi hermano, bienvenido. Jan Espinosa, bienvenidos. Si pueden compartir en este momento la información, el video, que ya estamos en vivo con Colleen Peck, right? Colleen Peck, Larson. Y nada, bienvenidos, gracias por estar conectados en este momento. Tampoco es fácil para ustedes, lo sé. Así que nada, vamos a empezar en este momento. So, Colleen, first of all, tell us a bit of yourself, please. Like, who are you? What do you do? So people can get to know you better.
Sure. So currently, and for the last couple of years, I have been working as a character artist at PlayStation in San Diego. Um, Previously, I was at Linden Lab in San Francisco. I graduated with a BFA from San Jose State University in California um, in 2016. And that's kind of a big part of my story is that I for basically 25 years of my life I thought that I wanted to be a 2D artist. Like it changed from when I was a kid. um I I can't really remember a time in my life where I wasn't drawing. um Basically, like from it must have been like 2 years old or 3 years old. Like I always loved to draw. And um, Even from a young age, like I knew that I wanted that to be my career. I didn't know like what what form that would take. Like I remember when I was younger, I wanted to be like do comic art like most people, a lot of people do. Disney movies were like a really big influence on me as a kid. Star Wars, Indiana Jones,
Nice.
like the classics. And like I said, for a while, I kind of wanted to get into comics, and that's actually like what helped me learn anatomy back in the day. Like, not very extreme anatomy, but still, those were the first, seeds planted where my parents got me some like how to draw comics books. And um, you know, probably like end of middle school, I started, learning from those books and getting more serious about art, uh, sports, and piano, and all those other things just kind of fell to the wayside as art became, I'd always done it growing up. In the car, I'm drawing. At the grandparents' house, I'm drawing. Like everywhere, I'm drawing. But
Excellent.
yeah, not so much anymore, sadly. But um, you know, drawing all the time. And when I'm not drawing, I'm thinking about it. And so at the end of middle school, I started becoming more serious about it. In high school, it just started growing. My parents got me my first drawing tablet, my Wacom 3, I think it was, in the middle of high school, which actually changed my life hugely. And then a friend of mine got a pirated copy of Photoshop for me, which changed my life as well. So it's like all these things kind of happening at once. Um, like I think my brother actually still uses that tablet. Like it's still kicking.
Awesome.
It's still
Like a
it's still
smaller one, like
operating.
the bamboo or something?
I think it was an Intuos 3. It's like the light gray model. It's
Okay.
huge. It's like a massive,
Nice.
like the screens, the screen space is the working space is still the same size as the current Intuos, but like the rest of it is just huge. But yeah, he's still making good use of that. My brother, growing up, we always were drawing together, and he still draws on his free time. And yeah,
That's
I don't know if
nice.
you can see this
Where,
guy coming.
where were you born?
1990, yeah.
No, where?
Oh, where?
Yeah, in which place? So I don't.
So I grew up in Northern California, a very small town called Placerville, basically where they discovered gold in California.
Nice.
So yeah, very small town, like middle of nowhere, which is great for growing up, access to like the woods and mountains, and just like hiking, like being out in nature, like uh, you know, uh, learning to appreciate like the natural world and things like that. I think that's had a big influence on me through my life. And yeah, so basically moving um, moving through high school, I just became more and more serious about what I wanted to do. And I started looking at colleges, and um, I decided to attend San Jose State University in my junior year of high school. And that same year, my junior year, I was accepted to California State Summer School for the Arts. It was like at the time I
Nice.
actually really wanted to like become an animator at Pixar or Disney or something like that. And so um, basically it was like a month-long program where at CalArts in Los Angeles, and it was just a month-long thing where like it was almost like a college like um,
Experience.
experience. Yeah, like so we stayed in the dorms and we learned we like we were in the CalArts animation building, which is where Tim Burton and Brad Bird and
The
like John
masters.
Lasseter.
Yeah.
Yes, like I was just like it was incredible. And I ended up making some really really good friends there, like friends that I've maintained my whole life since then. Incredibly talented people. One of my friends that I met there, her name is Casey Straka. She is a an artist at ILM,
Nice.
and she's been there for I think like 4 or 5 years now. But yeah, you never know who you're gonna meet and like who they're gonna become in your life. So yeah, it's just like this and the stuff that I learned there, which is interesting. That was the first time that I'd ever gone to figure drawing. They did clothed, like mostly clothed figure drawing because it was like still in high school. So, they couldn't, there were people ranging in age from like, 16 to 18. So they couldn't do like fully nude figure drawing, but that was my first experience with it. And it just like blew my mind. I was like,
Nice,
like just
amazing.
learning so much in such a short time. But what's interesting is that I also started to learn that animation might not be what I wanted to do because it was just like I have to draw the same thing over and over like
Oh yeah,
50
come
times.
on.
I don't know if I can do this yet. Like it's just like man, I have to do this again.
It's like the same
You
feeling
know,
here, you know? Because you did it once, super cool. You
right,
have to
right.
you have to repeat the same
Oh
drawing,
my
just
God.
moving one finger. Come on, man.
Yes, exactly. Obviously, I love animation. I grew up with it. I have the utmost respect for people that are talented at it. But it's just not for me. And like that idea was solidified. I went to junior college after I graduated high school, continued to take art classes there, and I met my husband there. Obviously we were dating for a while. We got married in 2015 after I had gone to San Jose State. But yeah, met him there. Went to San Jose State after I think 2 or 3 years in junior college, and then um, my friend Casey actually had gone to San Jose State as well the semester before me. So having someone there that I knew was huge. And then um, I started taking animation classes there, which their curriculum at the San Jose State Animation Illustration program is um, pretty initially focused on um, feature film, so Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, like those kinds of studios. And at the time, I still thought that I might want to do animation, but then pretty much my first semester there, we were doing hand-drawn animation, so uh, laying the paper on the light board and flipping the pages and stuff.
Cool. That's nice as well.
And yeah, and every part of the process is important to learn because if you don't try, you don't know if you like it or not.
Yeah.
But I quickly realized that
That's not my
maybe
thing.
this is exactly. And luckily, initially at San Jose State, they kind of give you a nice overview. So they'll have you taking intensive figure drawing classes. They'll have you taking um, you know very intensive drawing classes as well. Um, and they actually have you take 3D classes. So they have you take 3D animation classes and then also 3D modeling classes. Um,
In which year are we now? Which
so that
date?
was
Like
2011 that I started at
2011.
San Jose
Okay.
State. hmm
You haven't
It
you haven't met your husband yet, or you did?
Oh, I did. I met him in 2009.
Okay.
So yeah, this is 2011. And so they have you go through, they have a curriculum of different classes that you take, and it's very, very focused on learning the fundamentals of drawing. So you're studying the masters, you're studying kind of the Florentine method of drawing. We have an instructor who flies up from LA every single week
Wow.
to teach figure drawing at San Jose State University. His name's Sheldon Borenstein, and he teaches the Glenn Vilppu like school of drawing, figure drawing, and learning that method really, really like made a huge, huge difference for me. I think I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without what I learned at San Jose State. Even though I started out as a 2D artist and I'm now a 3D artist, like I don't think that I don't think I could do what I do without, what I learned there and without the people that I met there. I basically moved through my curriculum. It took me 5 years, I believe, to get through the program. It's quite intensive, so they don't let you take too many classes at once, because it is so intensive. And you start off with like 500 students, and we graduated with a class of 100. It's very difficult. A lot of people disappear over the years.
It's not easy to keep
It
the work
hmm?
done. It's not easy to keep the work done, and the motivation
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. Even for people as that are passionate, like I'm like myself. It's not easy. It's really hard to keep up the motivation. You know, uh, that it just takes pure grit to like get through that stuff sometimes. And some people that you really like end up switching majors. Whatever, and that's the thing. It's like each person has their own path. But these kinds of you know careers, like these kinds of industries, they take a lot of dedication.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I was set to graduate in 2016. In 2015, I took my final like advanced 3D modeling class. I hadn't taken 3D in about 3 years before that.
2013?
Yeah, so I started my 3D in 2013, like the super, super rudimentary stuff, Maya and ZBrush a little bit. Um, and it didn't really take with me. Like it didn't really spark anything in me at the time, maybe a
Okay.
little bit. Um, and um, in 2015, I took that advanced class, and the instructor was really like loose about the class in a good way, where he was basically like, okay, the first project of the semester, I want you to find a concept of a character that you like, and I want you to model it. And I'm not giving you any guidelines beyond that. And it was just
Come
like,
on, you're the
sweet.
teacher.
Well, yeah. At the moment, I was like, I don't know anything because it'd been 3 years. I don't know. I don't remember how to use Maya. Like I don't know how to use ZBrush. Like what the heck? But then at the same time, I was like, oh, this gives me complete freedom. So basically, like I had done a fan art, like original character design for Overwatch because I was like super excited about it. The style like really, really I loved it. Like it was awesome. So the game wasn't out yet, but I had done my own character design for it. So I pitched it to the instructor, and he was like, "Go for it." So basically, like, um, he wanted us to start the character in Maya, which is crazy to me. Like, I would never start a character in Maya these days. But I
These
was
days,
like,
yeah.
screw this. I'm gonna start him in Mudbox. So I started the head in Mudbox, and
I
like for some
respect that.
reason,
I
like
respect that.
yeah,
Mudbox
I
is
was
like
like,
the vintage, the classic one.
yeah. Sometimes you just have to kind of do things your own way. I did that maybe a little bit too much in school. But yeah, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, because Mudbox is way more like intuitive, I guess, than
Yeah.
ZBrush.
And it's really
Even
close to Maya and 3ds Max, you know? Like, the interface is really close to it.
right. So it's like oh, it's a bridge, you know. And starting on sculpting, in Mudbox is just like, very intuitive. Um, so I was like, this is super fun. Like this is awesome. So once I got that started, I brought him into ZBrush and I started sculpting on it. And like that character alone, it's terrible now. I took it out of my ArtStation portfolio a long time ago, but yeah, that character alone, like, made me realize like I really enjoy this. Like, not only can I design a character, but I can, make them come to life. And that principle alone, like, made me start to think about like, what if this is a different career path that I could take? And so that was the semester before my senior year. But I didn't want to switch majors, like, or concentrations from illustration to 3D modeling with only like, I had gone 4 years or 5 years, in that track. I didn't want to just like switch at the last second. So I finished my BFA my last year in illustration. So my degree is in illustration, but during that time, um, I was doing more ZBrush sculpts. I had done some like just freelance work for Zynga, which is a mobile game company.
Yeah.
I had done some 3D sculpts for them.
We're talking
And
about 2015, right?
yeah, so this was 2015, 2016.
Okay.
Um, and so I had a couple zebra sculpts in my portfolio. Most of it was illustration. And so come, May 2016, uh, we um, basically had the opportunity, all of us, my entire class had the opportunity, whoever wanted to, had the opportunity to apply and like put our name in for an internship at Linden Lab. Um,
Nice.
and that was, even from the first interview with them, I like really liked the team. And, they didn't really tell us much about the position. And then during the interview, I had maybe three zebra sculpts in my portfolio at that time. And they were like, so this is going to be a 3D position. And I was like,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know anything about game art. Like, I can do a couple sculpts in ZBrush. That's about it. And they're like, well, we'd like to bring you on and we're going to teach you the game art pipeline. So basically, they gave me a chance. Like, they gave me the opportunity to learn, but also like contribute to the team. So, um, just for reference, I basically on my first day at Linden Lab as an intern, I asked them. I just wanted to clarify what a normal map was. So I basically, yeah, that's how little I knew about game art at that time. And they taught me the entire pipeline. I learned Substance there. I learned Maya there. I learned ZBrush there,
Nice.
which are the huge. And then at that same time, I actually was taking a class through Game Art Institute from Adam Scott. Um, a lot of people took that class.
I was
Like
there
a ton of
actually.
people. Hmm?
I was there.
So
2016,
that's
Adam
how we
Scott.
met. That must have been how we met then.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was so cool.
Yeah,
I think I
that
talked to
class
you
changed my life.
after we finished it.
Hmm?
I think I talked to you after we finished it, the class.
Yes, yes. That now that I think about it, I was like trying to remember how we had met, and that makes total sense that that was it. Um, what's funny is that two of my coworkers at Sony also took that class.
Cool.
And then another guy I know who works in VFX here in San Diego. He also took that class, so it's just like it's huge. It changed my life too because not only was I learning from Linden Lab, the extremely talented people there, I was learning from Adam Scott and like learning from everyone in that class. So it kind of like just solidified these two things that I was doing at the same time, kind of solidified what I was learning. And um, yeah, basically, I want to give a big shout out to my team at my previous team at Linden Lab. I think the team is almost, everyone almost has moved on at this point, but Omar San Cristobal, who is my character art lead, he like I learned just from sitting next to him. Like he's an incredible artist. We would do sessions where we'd do like feedback and stuff, like talking about our personal art, which was huge. He definitely was a mentor to me when I was first starting out. Like had no idea what I was doing.
What's his name again?
Um,
So I can maybe write him
sure.
here.
Omar San Cristobal. He has an Instagram. He's over at Pixar now. He's been there for a bit. I think almost a year.
He was in the Cyber Summit as well in the 2018.
Yep.
I guess I met
Uh,
him. Amar.
2016. 2016. Here, let me link you his Instagram. Um,
I met an Amar here there. I don't know if he's the same Amar. He's like a serious streamer. I guess
oh,
it's a
I think
different
there's a
one.
different guy. Here, let me do
You know,
this.
that's nice. So we are going to give a big shout out to Amar. Yeah, that's crazy. I took the same class there in 2016. For me was this was life changer because I was
Yes.
learning. I mean, I've been learning by my own like
Hmm.
a lot of time. So I'm every single uh, information that I can take from different places, it's huge for me. So that was the first time that I was introduced to the game art pipeline. It was the
Yes.
first time, and I learned a lot not only from Adam Scott but also
Hmm.
from Ryan Kingsley, from
Yeah.
his feedback about face, about muscles and stuff.
Hmm.
So I was learning a lot from him and from all of these guys, Trevor as well. But for me, it was like an introduction, but I was not so sure that how this work. Like okay, you're going to do this, but I'm like okay, it's a lot of information. I don't know
Yes.
what to make an example of a character, but it was amazing for me.
Same here. Like you said, there's so much information online, but it's just kind of scattered. But that course, was just like this step-by-step process, where it just kind of like solidified this process in my mind, instead of it just being scattered. Um, yeah, and then obviously meeting so many awesome people that took it. Like, um, I think I'll just continue to meet people who took that class. It's just like this legendary period of time. But yeah, I still refer to that course. Like,
I think it's
obviously a lot of that stuff is ingrained in my head, but I still refer to it like, in my head. Um, yeah.
maybe it was one of the first courses out there
Hmm.
about game pipeline and character pipeline and stuff. And after that, it appeared CGMA. I think it was after that course that CGMA started to work to do
Yeah.
these courses and stuff. So
Hmm.
it was huge, and now it's like Vortex, right? Ryan Kingsley moved from Game Art Institute to Vortex, and it's kind of a big stuff right now.
Right. Yeah. It's like, I feel like that class was just like this right place, right time, kind of, uh, I don't know, epicenter for
Cool,
stuff.
yeah.
Like it was just like, yeah. I wouldn't be here without it. And it's funny, like I got to meet Adam, at the ZBrush Summit 2018, where you and
He
I
was there,
met,
yeah.
and uh, him and my current lead are old buddies, and you know, I told him, that class changed my life, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm glad you learned something," it was really cool meeting him. But yeah, as far as my career path, I was at Linden Lab for 2.5 years almost. And during that time, I was working on personal work and learning so much from my coworkers there. Oh, I wanted to link you to um, the Instagram of my art director at Linden Lab. His name's Colleen Peck.
Cool.
Um, he
Amazing.
he's an incredible concept artist. He's an alumni from San Jose State University as well. He's worked on a ton of stuff. BioShock 2, which is really cool because I was a fan of his work before I even knew that he went to San Jose State. So like working with him was like, like I was a huge fan of his work already, but like he's an awesome person, and a really really great art director as well. So it was really cool to get to work with him. And yeah, it was just like Linden Lab was a perfect way to begin my career that I had never seen coming. Like I had never planned for this switch to 3D at all. And without them, I wouldn't be where I am. They taught me so much. And like I got to work on some like, really fun costumes and stuff. We were working on a game. Basically, it's kind of like a social experience called Sansar. I don't know where the project is at now, but um, Linden Lab is the creator of Second Life, and we were working on kind of their successor for VR. So we basically it was for Oculus and Vive, and so I got to work on a ton of different like costumes for that game, which some of them I even got to design myself, which was really cool. And basically, those skills that I cultivated during that time, um, basically, helped me move on to Sony in 2018. Um, and that's kind of something that I wanted to touch on, like in this talk, kind of like the importance of networking, the importance of kind of like putting yourself out there, which is really hard to do when you aren't really feeling very confident about.
Yeah.
You're like, there's so many people that are like so much better than me. Like, what do I even bring to the table? I can, being scared to reach out to professionals. But basically, um, GDC 2016, I went there on a student pass, which is basically just the show floor. Um, I went there, even though I had class that day. I just went. I was like, I'm going.
It's important. I mean, we
Um,
need. I think it's more important that experience than the class itself. You know, getting there
100%.
and get to meet a lot of people there, get exposed. As you said, it's not easy, but it's the only way to show your work.
Exactly. Yeah, it's scary. It's painful. It's overwhelming. But fatefully, so my program, San Jose State University, they have a club called the Shrunken Head Men Club, and it's a really awesome club. Basically, everyone that's in the program gets, can be a part of this club, and it's just like for, nerdy artists who kind of get together and be a community. And there's a logo. It's like a little skull head guy. It's like I can link it to you, but it's a very distinctive logo that this club has. And I saw a guy walking by at GDC who had the logo on his shirt, and I stopped
Okay.
him and I was like, "Hey, are you an alumni?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he sorry, I'm forgetting his name at the moment.
Don't
I'm
worry.
I'm still a little bit nervous.
Just
Um,
chill, take a coffee.
yeah, I'll remember it later and I'll link it to you. But I was like, "Hey, I just started talking to him, and he's a VFX artist at Crystal Dynamics. And I added him on Facebook and stuff, and that was 2016. And then come, spring 2018, I had started to look for a new job because I kind of wanted to move my career forward, and I saw that Crystal Dynamics had a position open for a character outsource artist, I think it was. And I had, I remembered that I had that contact, and I hit him up on Facebook, and I was like kind of asking him about it, and he's like, it'd be better if I, uh, connect you with Mike Svimbersky, who is a senior character artist there at the time. And I hit up Mike, and actually this must have been probably 2017, because this was a year before I went to Sony. Um, I just kind of like hit him up and I told him, your buddy from Crystal, like, um, let me know I should ask you about this. And I wasn't really asking for much, beyond like just information about the
Position.
the position and stuff. And he was kind enough to like call me up on the phone, and he spent like an hour with me on the phone, um, critiquing my work and like just talking about, career and like industry and stuff. I never it was so kind of him. I'm nobody. He doesn't know me, but he spent the time to talk with me.
Nice.
And so for about a year after that, he would critique my work and stuff, and he kind of became another sort of mentor for me. Um, and um, in 2018, when I was looking for a career move, I had seen that Sony had a character artist position open, and I knew that he had worked there a few years ago. So I just hit him up and I was just asking him about what it was like working there, and he was like, he told me, and he then said, "Let me put in let me go talk to Darcy, who is now my lead." So he actually, I don't know what he said, but um, it must have helped. Obviously, I hope that my work also spoke for
Awesome.
itself. But my point is, that's long-winded, but my point is, like, you never know who you might bump into at GEC or Zebra Summit, who you never know how these connections might pan out in the future. Um, and and I think the important thing to remember, like, when you are reaching out to people, like, to do it with a genuine state of mind. Like, you know, if people can sense when you're just trying to make a connection, for the sake of making a connection. When I'm remembering his name, Amas Manuel. Let's see, Leo Braz da Cunha. That's his name.
Leo.
I can link.
Okay. Now I'm looking at the work from Brady Pearl. You said he's nice. I haven't find Amar.
Oh, did I link you to his stuff?
I, I,
I think
I,
on Facebook.
okay. O sea, okay. I look at it from Facebook. I was going to tell you that, well, first of all, I'm going to talk in Spanish for a bit. Chicos, ¿cómo están? Gracias por estar conectados. Espero que estén súper pendientes. Está interesante la charla con Colleen, su historia. Si tienen preguntas, no duden en hacerla, en realizarlas. Aquí estaremos pendientes de hacerlas. So, Mr. Francois is saying, I love the cat in the background. Thanks for sharing your tips.
That's awesome.
Here we
Yeah.
have Andres Martinez says, hello guys, Colleen have an awesome work. I had the opportunity to meet her and her work days ago in a digital drink and draw. So you
Oh,
had a
that's
digital
awesome.
drink and draw. That's cool.
Oh, they must have been we did a chat with a bunch of guys from Sony Santa Monica and a bunch of San Jose State alumni and um, yeah, that was really cool. It was yeah, it was just like a little meetup we did. Um,
Nice.
uh, yeah, tell them to send me a message.
So yeah, Andres is the winner of a design challenge that I organized with Bogota ACM SIGGRAPH. So he won the challenge. So a big congratulations to Andres Martinez for being the winner of it.
Woo!
Yeah,
Congrats!
it was so cool
Congratulations!
actually. His work is so cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask you what happened with the comics. I mean,
With the what?
with the comic,
Oh yeah.
you wanted to be a comic artist.
Eh.
You started into animation, then you learned 3D, but I'm pretty sure that it is there. Like the comic stuff and the 2D artist and the drawing and what happened to it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love that you're still drawing. I see your drawings and I'm like, man, I miss that. Sometimes I really do miss drawing. But yeah, I think comics it comes down to the same like thing with animation that I drawing the same thing over and over is just like, not really my thing. I mean, I think I could learn. I think I could learn to get used to that, but um, yeah, it's just you know, I like illustration where, you're kind of spending your time on like one big effort. And the same with 3D where you're trying to make it as good as you can. You're not doing I've never been the type of person to just like draw very I'm not a very quick artist that just pure plain and simple. So I've never been the kind to just like, just churn out drawing after drawing. Some of my friends just like are incredible at that, and that's just like not where I'm strongest. But yeah, I definitely miss drawing. I For me, like, my art time is precious, and so I want to spend every moment of it working on my portfolio and building my 3D portfolio. So it's just like um, I don't really spare much time for drawing, which is unfortunate. But I love seeing your drawings come through. I love seeing 3D artists that also do 2D. It's awesome. But
So from Crad, I encouraged you to keep drawing. I encouraged you to take your
yes,
sketchbook and go for it.
yes,
At least
100%.
it's crazy because sometimes I draw when I'm about to sleep. And
Oh yeah.
it's the only space that I have to draw. So I'm like,
Mm.
okay, and I do
Yeah.
something. or in the bus, for example. So I try to find spaces to do it, because as you said, it's hard, in the during the day, during the work, studies, and portfolio, it's hard
Yeah,
to find the time to do it. So I
exactly.
encourage you to find it, like, at least a night dawdle, like 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes of it. So it can
Yeah,
it
that's the
can help as
thing.
well. So we have a
Yeah, and
question here. I'm so sorry. Keep.
no, I was gonna say, and you don't have to show it to anyone. You can just draw for yourself
Yeah.
and do it for fun. So
In that Saber Summit for me was the first one and the only one I've had.
mhm,
I wanted to come back this year, but
me too.
unfortunately. And next year I want to come back. So
Yes.
hopefully we can meet there as well. And in that year I saw again Alessandro Baldasseroni. That is
Hmm.
like my how to say that, my hero, my
Oh
art
yeah.
hero. So he was like, come on, man, don't worry about your work. Just I have seen your work, and it's been better, each year. So just do it because you love it. Do
Yes.
it because you enjoy it. So don't worry about the work, because the work and the job is going to get in. Just keep doing it because you enjoy it, and keep learning because you love it. So for
Exactly.
me, it was like I'm alive. I don't know if you remember our talk there. I was like a lot of struggling because of the work, and because
Yeah.
I wanted to jump into the industry and stuff. And he was
Hmm.
like, "Come on, man, don't worry about it. Just keep doing it. Keep
Yep.
doing it because you enjoy it and you love it. And that's it."
100%.
And I was like, "Come on, man, you
Yeah.
changed my life again."
Right. Isn't it amazing? Like what just one sentence or one thing from a person you respect can change your life. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, when you get frustrated, yeah, it's just like I'm not as good as I want to be. It's like you think back to how you were when you were a kid. You know, drawing was just for fun. Like no one it was for no one but yourself.
Exactly.
And yeah, I try to draw from that. I try to remember how that felt. And that's all that matters is getting better than you were yesterday, you know.
And
Um,
it's
yeah.
crazy. From my experience, drawing has helped me to improve my ZBrush and my 3D.
Yes.
And in the same way, learning 3D and learning more into the sculpting stuff helped me to improve my drawing, because
Absolutely.
both activities help me to understand better the human body, for example, and
Yes.
understand better the forms and the shapes and the planes, and the different I don't know, sabotage. I don't know how to say that in
Hmm.
English, but yeah, different parts that normally I don't understand in just one medium. So it helps me to improve in both directions. So it's cool.
100%.
We have a question from here. Jose Arango says, how much time did it take to you to learn to sculpt in ZBrush, like to have a good level to work on?
To have a good what?
A level to work
Oh, level.
in your job, I guess.
Um, yeah. So it was for me about a year. Um, between the time that I got serious about ZBrush and 3D to the time I was hired as an intern at Linden Lab. And during that time, I think I did maybe because I was studying, I was doing my final senior year, so I had very little time to do 3D. Um, but I made time because I really enjoyed it. So I had done like maybe 5 or 6 sculpts um, in that year.
That's amazing. That's a
Um,
lot.
Surprisingly, yes. I mean, some of them were just like bust sculpts, so they weren't full body, full character. And none of them were game ready at all. Like none of them had textures beyond just poly paint from ZBrush. But there's definitely some. some tutorials that helped me so much. One thing that I wanted to talk about in this was that, as you can tell probably from my work, like I love stylized and more realistic stuff. And that's kind of it was the same when I was a 2D artist as well. Like I was kind of caught between these two interests, stylistically. And one tutorial that helped me learn ZBrush over anything else was Matt Thorup. He's also known as Redbeard. Um, uh, I can link you to his stuff. I mean, he's a legend.
Animator?
Redbeard. That's kind of what he goes by. You'll know him when I link him to
I was
you.
looking for Bradbird. Yeah, you can give it to me and I can post it here in the chat so people can note him maybe.
I'll also link you to Mike Svimbersky's work.
Cool.
He's he was at Crystal Dynamics for a long time. His work is awesome. But he was the one that helped me get the job at Sony. I'm just sending you like tons of links.
I love it. I mean, but I've learned that first of all I need to improve my work, improve my get it strong, have a strong portfolio, and then I can start talking to people and getting exposed because I need to be ready.
I actually I have to disagree with you there. Like if you wait till you're ready, like you will never go. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Like if I waited till I thought I was like good enough to reach out to Michael, um, do you know Letitia Ronaldo Gillette?
I've
You'll know her
heard
work.
some Letitias here, but I'm not so sure if it's the same that I know.
Well, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. Um,
Rinaldo, 3D art. I found her. Oh, I've seen her work. Yeah.
yeah, she's incredible, and she's the nicest person you'll ever meet. Basically, I had reached out to her because she was an artist on Overwatch at the time. And she also like took a lot of time to like critique my work, and she even gave my husband and I a tour of the Blizzard campus. And I got
Oh,
to meet some really amazing artists like Arnold Sang and Renal Galand. Uh, like it was unbelievable. Like she just is that kind of person. Like she's just very kind and giving, and she's like, oh, I hit her up. I was in LA. I was like, can you give me a tour, maybe? She's like, of course. And it was awesome. It was really cool being there. And I wasn't in the industry at the time, so that was my one of my first glimpses into Blizzard. That was awesome. So my point is like, if you wait till you're ready or like really good or like good enough, like you never know what what might come of just reaching out to someone. Just email them. Like you, um, there's no point in waiting, because if you wait, it might be too late.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
and
slapping my face right now, but I love it.
hmm?
You're
What?
slapping my face like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
I love
wait.
it. I mean, I love it. You've always done that
Yeah,
in a good sense. You've always done that in a good
I'm.
sense.
I hope in a good way. Yeah, yeah.
To be honest.
Sometimes you need someone to just encourage you, just like go do the thing. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
yeah.
sometimes artists, at least in my perspective, have some insecurities, as I told you sometime, because I know there's some workflows, there's some stuff that I'm not so confident about, and sometimes mine wins and says like, okay, industry requires people that are it's so experienced in this point, so you need to know how to do this stuff. So if you don't know how to do the stuff, you're not going to get hired. So like, oh fuck, what if I get hired and people need to do like a chainmail, and I have never done that, so I'm going to fuck it up, and yeah. So a lot of time mind wins, but sometimes we have to be keep doing it. Like it doesn't matter.
I've had the same thought. I mean, I wanted to bring up this topic too, which is imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I have it every single day of my life. And sometimes I can push it away. Sometimes, I have to because I have to work. I have to get something done. And the thing is, I don't know, you just have to. The, when I first started at Linden Lab, I'm like, I don't know anything, and they teach you, and as long as you're willing to learn, and then you don't let your ego get the best of you. You can take feedback. That's really crucial. Being setting your ego aside and saying, I
Humble.
don't know
Yeah.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
And being willing to learn. That's the most important thing. And then the same thing goes for Sony too. I didn't think I was good enough when I applied. I was just like, screw it, I'm going to try this. You never know. And the thing, I didn't know that, if the stuff I was doing at Linden Lab would be good enough. But it's exactly what got me hired, because they could see that I was doing game ready assets. They could see that I was, they could see the topology for the clothing I was doing. They could see that I had, obviously what we do at Sony is different than what we did at Linden Lab, in that, it's just like, um, you know, triple A. But the thing is, I use the principles that I learned at Linden Lab every day. I've just built upon them. And so the thing is, you never know what your current skill set would mean to someone in the industry. And the thing is, at Sony, like, they give you the opportunity to learn. They give you the opportunity to try things, and it's a team effort. If one person has a solution for the chainmail and the other person like has another idea, like, you can try it. And I don't know what every studio is like, obviously, but there's never only one way to do something. Obviously, you have your workflows. You have, especially for, you know, each studio has a way they do things, and um, but there's room to learn within that. It's not just do it this way or it's wrong. The same comes down to topology as well. Like, something as technical as that. Each studio has their own topology for things. There's no one right way to do things, and that's something to keep in mind, I think.
Yeah, that's right, and that's one of the first slap that you gave me. It was cool because I thought it was like a kind of same way to do stuff in the
Mhm.
industry, and you were like, no, it's not like that. Like I have my own way. Maybe another artist have its own way, and different studios have different, poly count, different texture work, different, how to handle stuff, and that's cool because a lot of people know different ways to do stuff. So
Right.
as long as you have the solution of some stuff of something, maybe you're going to get hired. Doesn't matter if you know the same workflow as the company, but at least you can
Yeah.
do it. And you can learn.
Yeah. There's no way for you to know what the company's workflow is going to be. And the thing is, like at Sony, we do have standard like software that we use, but you know, like, not everyone uses Substance. Some guys still use Photoshop to do their texturing. Some guys still use Mudbox to sculpt and do texturing. They don't force you to, like, necessarily use all the same software all the same way. Like, the way that I use Substance is different than a way that my coworker might use Substance. So it's just like, and that's the thing.
Yeah,
Even on the job, it's a learning experience. I've taught stuff to my coworkers. Even I've taught stuff to my lead sometimes, and it's like and also like we had an intern last summer, and she taught me stuff that I didn't know. So it's just like you learn something from everyone, um,
that's
and
amazing.
and 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 you will have something to bring to the table that even your lead might not know. So yeah, it's just like, um, don't be so worried about not knowing, um, like how to make chainmail, like in the way that Naughty Dog might make chainmail if they ever did, like, or like how does Blizzard make chainmail? Like a different, each artist in that studio might do it a different way. Um, and you find the solution together. So yeah.
That's cool. Uh, we have Jose again asking us if you know a better way to improve fast in ZBrush sculpting. He says like, okay, you did it in a really short time. Like 1 year is a lot of. It's a short time to learn ZBrush, and if you have any tips for us and for him to improve
Um,
fast.
well, I'm not a very fast artist, like I mentioned. I never have been. As far as improving quickly, um, I don't know. It's hard because, I have tutorials that I swear by, and I link to people all the time. Um, and again, I think Redbeard, his stuff is very stylized, but uh, the way he teaches ZBrush is just like for me, it just clicked really well. He has several courses. He has like intro, intermediate, and then advanced. Um, I highly recommend those courses, even if you're not interested in stylized art.
Is it Redbird?
Um,
So I can post it
yeah,
here?
Redbeard, yeah, yeah, his stuff is
Redbird.
awesome. I'm gonna close the
Redbird.
curtains real quick. I'm getting like sunshine in my eyeballs.
Ah, it's like 7 a.m. In the morning there.
Yeah, I never get to see the sunrise otherwise.
Redbird. Okay. Colleen,
Oh,
don't
I
escape. Don't
disappeared.
escape. Come on, don't escape
Yeah.
from me. I wanted to ask you, what is the most important project, personal project you've done, and why? If you want to share your screen,
Um,
you can do it as well,
sure.
so we can see it.
Let's see. Most important. Well, um, the
Oh,
project that I was working on when I got the job at Sony, which I think helped get me the job, was my Frollo project, which I started in winter of 2017. I was fortunate enough to get a spot in Glauco and Raf's mentorship program.
oh
So that,
yes.
yeah,
It was
that
right
was,
after the Game Art Institute stuff.
hmm
That's
yeah, I
amazing.
think
How was
that
it?
was probably a year after that. Yeah, that was crazy. I learned so much from that class. And I still haven't finished that project.
I, I, I
Um,
know what that character is. Is the bad guy
yeah,
from
so
the, I don't know how to say that in English. Jorobado de Notre Dame. Notre Dame.
Hunchback of Notre Dame.
That guy. Yeah. That one, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
it's
haven't
one
seen
of
it
my
finished,
favorite.
yeah.
Yeah, it's on the back burner because I'm working on my other project, but I'm going to finish it one day. It'll be done eventually. Let's see. How do I share?
I don't. It says present now, I guess. The bottom stuff. On the right.
Okay.
Yep.
We got it?
I got it. Yeah, I'm seeing myself.
It's an inception. So this project, this is kind of where I've left it. Definitely, he needs a lot of work, but this project was really huge for me, obviously, because I started it during my mentorship with Raf and Glauco. And it was the first time I'd attempted likeness, seriously. So, with their guidance, I was able to just learn a ton. I can kind of show the earlier stages if you would like as well. So this is kind of a concept that I developed just photo bashing some stuff. Um, you know, getting some material ideas here.
So you did
Just
that
kind
concept
of
art. That's amazing.
I think like obviously we are talking about 2D and 3D, being crucial for each other, and this is one of those situations where obviously it's not a very well drawn, but it's like it's enough to get the idea across, and that is making concepts for yourself, even if it means um doing some Photoshop and photo bashing on top of a render, is like really really cool. It's something that I've started to use a lot more lately. This is like kind of where I left off um on the
I love
clothing
your work in
sculpt.
Marvelous.
Hmm?
I love how you work in Marvelous. I mean, it's so good.
Thank you.
Good to
I
learn.
with Marvelous, I feel like I'm always just like making it up as I go along. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something. And just like working and working and working until it looks good. But yeah, this is mostly Marvelous designer, and obviously like a bit of sculpting as well. It's not quite finished. The arm position's bothering me now. But this is kind of like where I left off with the clothing. And then, working on the tertiary details for the head. And that was the first time using texturing XYZ. So that was a learning experience. I learned a lot about that at Sony. Different processes for getting the skin to look more fleshy, things like that. I think there's some improvements that I could make here for sure. For example, um, like at Sony, a lot of what we do is we have really awesome scan um, photogrammetry stage, um, and a really awesome team that heads up that entire process. So I've gotten the chance to work with a lot of scans, and so that's been really helpful in my learning process because looking at clothing folds, looking at heads and pore detail and stuff like that on the scan is just like it's one-to-one real life, and so
Amazing.
you learn a lot from that. So I guess one thing that I would recommend for learning is just look at scans. Go to a 3D scan store and buy some scans, and then use the scan as a template and as a reference and sculpt from it. Like you'll definitely learn a lot that way. Um, this is just my zebra sculpt with poly paint, or I think this is actually my head texture. Started in XYZ.
So I'm looking at
From
you're posing it before going to substance, for example.
On this one, yes, or actually no. I had see I this is the neutral.
Yep.
So I had started, this is my substance pass. And
Mm,
then basically this guy is just posed on a layer in ZBrush. And then I have the texture applied. Um, so a lot of times, like I will do all of my sculpting and texturing in a neutral pose, and then I will pose it just to kind of like see what it'll look like. So I'm sure this is just on a layer in ZBrush that can be turned off and on.
okay. Cool.
Um, And then for the clothing, I created all of this posed, because for me, like, um, for my personal art, like, I would rather tell a story than have like a perfect game character. Yeah, I know that's like
No,
it sounds
that's
wrong.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, like at San Jose State particularly, they really push the idea of telling stories in your artwork. And for me, having a guy just in like a pose, is fine. Obviously building a character art portfolio, it's important to have a game character in your portfolio. But for me, like, I would rather tell a story. Um, and for me, like, getting those nice folds that correspond to the pose was important to me. Um, so for this character particularly, I I decided to create him posed. For the head, I started off in the neutral pose. Um, but ultimately he will be posed.
He will be.
And obviously,
One day he will be
um,
finished.
yeah, eventually, uh, that'll be the day. But yeah, those are his hands, just like quick test and marmoset. Um, I can show you some old renders too.
I love
That's
that
kind
as
of
well.
always
I can
nice
see
to
that your
see.
working anatomy is so good. I mean, hands look really good
Thank
as
you.
well.
Um, for me, like, hands have always been like really interesting to me. Like, I find them very, very fascinating. So, I think it's like, for me, like, the head and hands are like the most important part of a character. Hands really tell a lot about a character. They really um they really contain a lot of personality. Um, but let's see. I can actually show some of the hands. So, like, these are like the primary forms, or primary forms for the hands. Um, and then this is with uh these 3D scan store tertiary detail applied. One thing that I've learned, at Sony is, how to use scans to your advantage. I think there's a fine line to be walked between using them as a crutch and also then using them to push your work forward. It's not easy. I would say mostly, um, using scans for color information and also tertiary information, like sculpting, for example, the wrinkles and stuff like that, the very, very fine wrinkles. Use scan or like texturing XYZ for that. But for obviously like primary forms, like, I try to sculpt that stuff myself because I enjoy it, and B, I don't feel like I'm going to learn as much if I just use a scan straight out. Obviously nothing's perfect, but just uh, knowing when to use scans and when to sculpt stuff yourself, sculpt stuff yourself is important.
I think that's a hand like it's a bit stylized or it's totally real hand.
Thank you. That means a lot. I I I don't. I think there's still some stuff that bugs me about it, but I um I'm pretty happy with where it's at. Obviously everything can be improved, but and that's why, like, getting feedback from everyone is like really important. Um, I will just as readily get feedback from my husband, who is not an artist, than I will from my lead at work, for example. Um, Basically, the difference between getting feedback from a non-artist to an artist is that a non-artist will tell you that something seems wrong, but they
Mm-hmm.
can't tell you why. Whereas an
Exactly.
artist will be able to probably tell you more specifically what's wrong. Um,
But non-artist people is are their feedback is so good because of that.
Agreed.
they have seen a lot of hands daily. They have seen a lot of heads daily, so they know
Exactly.
something's wrong. They know. We sometimes we try to give an explanation to everything. So we say, okay, that there's the bone, there's the muscle, there's the cartilage, there's the flesh. I mean, for me, it's
Hmm.
fine. But they're going to say, no, it's not fine. There's something wrong. I can't tell you
Yeah.
what, but it's something wrong. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, it's important to get feedback from any source, because ultimately we're making art. When you're working on a game, you're making art not for yourself, but for the people that will be playing it. And if a normal non-artist can tell that something is wrong, then it needs to be fixed. So, um, yeah. Let's see.
That's cool. T- tell tell us a bit. I mean, tell us a bit of your work in your eternal whip. I want to know
Sure.
more about it too. I mean, I think it's great, to be honest, because I love that style as well. Like between being real and stylized, but it's
Mhm.
not cartoon. It's like super a super cool in between. Being real and stylized. I love that style, and I want to get into that as well. I mean, I love that.
I appreciate that. It's been hard for me to kind of hit that point, because for me, like I said before, story is very important, and then also personality is very important when it comes to making my own projects. I think like the rule of cool is like really crucial. Opting for something that, hitting a balance between something that is unique and then something that is appealing is important.
Yeah.
Um, it's not easy to do. Um, and I mean, I'm just trying to figure things out as I go. So I'm no expert on that. It's just that's kind of something that I've learned through this project. But yeah, this project I started um, in 2016 for Adam Scott's class.
Oh, come on.
And so I think this is the very first like attempt I had done for his class back in 2016. Um, you can see it kind of evolve here.
The interesting thing is that
Um,
we thought it was so cool in that moment. Like it's
yeah,
perfect. God, come on, the zygomatic, the glabella, the face, the skull, it's perfect. And then we look back. I mean, no, come on, we need a lot of to improve.
exactly. It's like, um, but I mean, I don't recommend taking the approach I did. I think it's best to just finish a piece at your current skill level and then move on. I should take my own advice on that. But yeah, these are the old versions of this. This is kind of where I left it off back in 2016, 2017. I completely abandoned this project for a very long time. And then I restarted this project when I think it
Is
was like April. It was after I'd come to Sony. So probably like April 2019. Um, and I had completely restarted from scratch. So this is
that's
like the
totally
first.
different. I mean, so good. I mean, we can see a lot of the improvement there. Like the
I, I
proportions and stuff.
I'm happy to hear that because I think that, even in this early stage, like I think the construction, you just there's certain things that kind of just absorb into your brain over time. And I hadn't done a ton of pieces in this time, but I had done a lot of work at Linden Lab, and I was working at Sony for probably like 8 months at this time. And just like looking at scans really makes a difference. I can't stress that enough. Um, but yeah, here's the early like super early stages. for him. You can see how much he evolves over time.
Yeah, the
Um,
proportions of the head are different but look more real. Like you gave him more like space between the zygomatic,
mhm,
and the how to say this mandibula, the cheek is
mhm.
wider as well. It
Yeah,
looks
it's
so
just,
cool.
observing, um, looking at scans, learning from my coworkers, like, um, yeah, it's hard to like nail down. Like, it's not like I just did a bunch of anatomy studies in that interim, but I had done that furlough. I'd started that furlough project, which doing that likeness like made a huge difference for my skill set. Um, yeah, you can see how he's changing over
Mm-hmm.
time. Um,
This change was so subtle, like
right.
a bit small one, but it looks more how to tell you more natural.
That's exactly kind of what I was going for with this, where it's like, you know, the original project, maybe it would have been fine if I had finished at the time, but like, so this character is from a book series called The Dresden Files. And it's a book series, it's probably one of my favorite book series ever. And so, I wanted to do it right. And so I had a certain amount of pressure on myself to do that. So that's why what kind of pushed me to restart this project. There's my first test in Marmoset. You can see I've got the initial stages of the texturing XYZ color map on him in this early stage, just like early Marvelous Designer stuff, early Marmoset tests. One thing I learned at Sony, one of the many things I've learned at Sony is testing your stuff early and often in your game engine of choice, which right now for me, I'm rendering my stuff in Marmoset. But yeah, just like get your stuff in, just like pre-visualization. Just getting it in to look at it all together is really important.
That's a
Um,
good advice as well.
hmm?
That's a good advice because I try to finish my character, the total character, and
Mhm.
then start doing texturing and then start testing renders.
See, and
So
that's how I used to work as well. But to me, like test it right away. Slap some. If it doesn't have UVs, just like do some auto UVs. Like slap some textures on it. Like get it in, and look at it. It helps so much. On this, I'm just like testing posing for my final pose. Um, you can see it improving here
but
with
also
feedback from.
the marvelous designer was done after you posted or you move it all in transpose or something.
This is just transpose, and like I think it was Mixamo. Like super super dirty. Like obviously like looks terrible, but like getting an idea. Like and then on top of this, you can start drawing and start concepting.
Yeah.
Um, moving things around. This is closer to my final pose that I'll be doing. Um, but yeah, I save a render almost every time I work, as you can tell.
That's amazing.
Um,
That's how you record your progress.
yeah, it's encouraging because if you're feeling like you don't have any traction, if you're just like making changes and not sure if they're even good, like sometimes I will just like make changes and like work on a project or like work on this, and it's just like I don't know if I'm improving it. I'm just changing it. And so you can kind of go back and see like, oh, what was better before, but that can kind of get into a bad um a bad cycle. If you're like, oh, it looked better before. Oh no. It's just like I hate that.
You're right.
Um,
I mean, I love it. You have a lot of fans here. It says, Jose, I love your work. You are a great artist.
oh, that's really sweet. Thank you.
Sergio, she looks beautiful. Nice. I love her work as well.
Thank you.
You have a
That's
lot
very
of
sweet.
Colombian fans here in
Yes.
the Crad life. what what has been the most challenging project you've done?
Um, Probably this one, but I mean, uh, yeah, I think honestly the toughest thing is just sticking with the project and, I'm not a good example because, these two projects are I've worked on for years. But the thing is, like, I have this vision in my head, and like, if it's not living up to that vision, I don't stop, which is not, it's not great. I wish, I wish that I could just like nail something down and be done. But I just have this perfectionism, I guess, where I'm like, it's not living up to what I have in my head yet. And so I just keep working on it. So I think honestly, as far as projects, like these two last projects I've shown are the toughest that I've done. Just because with a full body, more realistic type character, there's a lot to do. There's just so much work to do on these kinds of characters on your own. And at work, even if you're even if you're doing a character, like even if you have ownership over a character, you're not working on it by yourself. There's a lot of other people that are in the process. For example, at Sony, there's people that are scanning the assets, the clothing assets. There's people that are scanning the heads. There's people that are doing, um, you know, the first pass. Basically, they hand off the scans to you that have already been processed to a certain degree, where they're in the right position and they're slightly cleaned up, and everything is there for you. Um, at work you have base meshes to work from. You even sometimes have like shaders to start from, or you have textures to start from. A lot of times, and so it's like when you're working on stuff on your own, you are starting from scratch. And so I think that is the hardest part, is just sticking with the project, and not losing interest. It's really hard, you know.
Yeah, that's why I find important to finish it. Sometimes I am working on one guy, and as long as you stop doing it for a long time, it's so hard to come back to and keep
It
working
really
on it.
is.
I mean, I started a course 2 years ago with Bruno Camara, and I
Mm-hmm.
started a pilot, and I was okay. He's looking great. Then I went to the train horse last year, and a lot of things need to be redone and changed, and I'm like, I rather start a new one. It's
Exactly.
hard. So that's so cool that you came back to your work, and I want to see it finished. I mean, I love it in this way, in this stage, but I love to see how you're going to finish it, because it's great, and I know it's important for you. So that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It's hard, it takes dedication and grit and effort to finish stuff like this, because character art is so time consuming. And that's the thing, like you said, coming back to an old project, you're like, you've even if you do no art in that time period, you're improving, you're observing, you're seeing the world, you're watching movies, playing games. Your taste improves constantly, and your skills improve constantly. So that's why it's really hard to have a long-term project, because you're always going to be seeing the flaws. So really, one thing that I've learned is like to adopt the kind of approach of finished, not perfect. Because nothing is ever going to be perfect. But if you're proud enough of it that you can show others, like that's what we should all be striving for. And we cannot strive for perfection. We can strive toward it, but we can't expect that of ourselves. And sometimes it's hard to let that go. Um, but yeah, I just had to take my own advice there.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
I
easy.
mean, it's great. I mean, I love the texturing work in the shirt. I mean, the t-shirt. It's it's so cool. The color is different, and it's so good. And the
Thanks.
the seams here in the middle of the t-shirt and the jacket. I mean, it's amazing. I love it. I mean, I'm in love with that work. I mean, it's crazy.
The jacket is going to be a bit different once I finish it. He'll have like kind of more of like a old Western coat like I have in some of these like newer. These are old, unfortunately. But it'll be more of like a Western coat, and he'll have a hoodie underneath. I've done a lot of work on the clothes since this render, but I kind of wanted to just show like how you can like concept on top of your work. So like this is just the marmoset render, and I have just like an initial sculpt for the hair there. Like so basically using the liquify tool to just like kind of move things around that were bothering me.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'll move, I'll copy and paste an area, and I'll just kind of move it around to see like, okay, do I like that better? And like sometimes I will do this to avoid kind of noodling around in 3D because that takes so much more time than just like change
That's
something
so
quickly in
cool.
Photoshop. Sizing the eyes down and stuff, rotating them, things like that, where I'm like, oh, if you zoom way out, his eyes kind of seem rotated outwards, so I'll just kind of like correct that really quick. Um, you know, adding some hair really quick. Like this is from like Christian Bale, I think. And so getting an idea of what you want really quickly. Um,
The
you
hair
know, and all
was the horrors one is not done with haircuts.
no, not yet, but it will be. So it's just kind
Oh,
of
come on. Oh, interesting.
so it's kind of like you can use photo bashing and concept art techniques to
Love
your
it.
advantage,
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, this is a proof of concept. Like I know for a fact that I like how this looks, and then you can start pulling reference. For example, like the hairstyle that I used for this is from the Dark Knight Rises premiere. Christian Bale had his hair like this during the Dark Knight Rises premiere. So, there's a ton of photos of him from that. So you can say, yes, I like how this looks, and then you can also find really, really good reference for that stuff. So you can basically be your own concept artist at that point.
Nice.
Um,
Do your husband know that you were looking for Christian Bale
he
for the
he's
hair?
he's long ago gotten used to all of this. Yeah, looking at like anatomy models and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like he's
What are you
used to it.
doing there? I'm studying. Come on.
Um, yeah. Um,
Don't
but
interrupt me.
yes.
Here Josie asked if do you like Rafa Grassetti? I see very influence in your work. He says.
Can you repeat that?
He's asking if Rafael Grassetti has influenced
Oh,
in your work because he says that he can see some influence.
well,
Maybe.
that's very flattering. Raf is a massive influence. Raf and Glauco both. They're they're legendary artists, and they're extremely nice people. And I learned so much from them. Yeah, they're great. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without their mentorship. That's for sure.
That's cool. That was a big thing as
Um,
well. I mean, that mentorship was like everyone wanted to be there. I wanted to be there, but I thought I needed more experience to get into that mentorship.
Honestly, like I was really lucky to get in. I'm still amazed that I got that chance. I was probably one of the least experienced artists there. There were some really awesome artists in that group, in that mentorship. Um, and so that was kind of intimidating, being the kind of least experienced person there, but that just meant that I was learning that much more. When you take a class, you learn not only from the instructor but from the other students as well. So yeah, I would say again, you know, no matter what your skill level is, it's never, you know, it's never a bad idea to put yourself out there and just try because even as like I would imagine even as an experienced artist, you could you should adopt the idea that you're the least experienced person there. You know what I mean? Where like you 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 have the ego of someone who is still a student, if that makes sense. No
It's
matter what your experience
it's
level.
so interesting what you're saying because I am doing a podcast as well with Crad, and we were talking about one day about frustrating, you know,
Hmm.
and getting your level up, and we
Hmm.
were talking that when you realize that you don't know anything is where you start learning
Exactly.
because you're getting more humble, you know.
Yes.
We were talking about that when we learn something and when we were like when we are right out of the school, for example, we think that we are the kings of the mountain, you know. We are the
Yep.
best of the best, and we no one's better than us.
Yep.
No one's better than us. But in that sense, we are like blind, you know. We don't
Oh
see
yeah.
that really that actually there are a lot of people that know more than us, and we don't know nothing, anything. So as fast as we realize that, the fastest we start learning, the faster we start learning and
I
start
could not
growing.
agree more.
You know, it's crazy because that's when we start learning more stuff. When we're humble enough to say, "Hey, I don't know something. Hey, I need to learn. Hey, please, this is the hardest one. Please teach
Yes.
me." You know,
Hmm.
sometimes for people it's like hard to ask someone else to ask for, for help, but
Yes.
it's good, to learn. So right now I we're almost done.
Hmm.
I'm so sorry with you. It's been a long session. I hope you're having fun and you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Lastly, I
Yeah, it's
want
been
to
great.
ask you maybe if you want to talk about your last project, The Last of Us 2. Maybe
Sure.
what are your impressions? How did you feel in the project? What did you have to do there? No.
Sure. Actually, I should just share my screen again, my bad. Um, okay. Can you see it?
Yep, I
Cool.
can see it.
Um, yeah, so I worked on Last of Us 2 for about 8 months, starting September 2019, I believe. Um, basically, it was wild. Uh, anyone who knows me knows how much Last of Us means to me. And so I coming to Sony, I like joked with my husband like, "Oh, what if I get to work on Last of Us 2?" But like I never truly thought that I would get to work on it. And so working on this title was a dream come true. Like I've been a Naughty Dog fan since I was about 8 years old. Um,
Cool.
I yeah, one of my first PlayStation 1 games was Crash Bandicoot 2.
Oh,
And loved, all that series. I loved Jack and Daxter, Uncharted, Last of Us, and um, Naughty Dog has been my dream company since I was a kid. And so working on this title, it was crazy. I still can't believe I got to work on it. We like I mentioned, we do a lot of scanning at Sony. That's They do a lot of head scanning. They do a lot of clothing scanning for a lot of different projects. For basically all of our first party studios. And so we basically um, our scan team scanned these pants, and basically my job was to sculpt it, clean up the scan, you basically utilize the scan texture as the color map, but it also takes a lot of what we do is we will take the scan and it's called digital double, where it's basically a 1-to-1 of the the scan itself. But essentially, that needs to be fitted onto the character. It needs to be, sculpted and cleaned. But it also needs to be what we call characterized. So, like, essentially, making it, from just a scan into Ellie's pants.
Okay.
Um, and the same goes for the shoes. So I was responsible for this area. So I did the undershirt here, I did the pants and the shoes. And then Soa Lee, who I'm sure you all know, she's the legendary artist behind Ellie and Last of Us 2 and a ton of other awesome characters from Naughty Dog's previous games. She was responsible for the head and hair. I worked with my lead, Darcy Corch, on the assets that I worked on. He's an awesome artist. He is a he has been an awesome resource for learning for me. I don't I can't even quantify how much I've learned from him over time. He's awesome to work with as well. He he actually worked at Naughty Dog a while back, and then he came down to Sony, and he's been here for a while. He basically manages all the character teams at Sony. So he's a very busy guy, but we basically he brought me on um, very early for this, and um, uh, I kind of learned the Sony process by doing these pants. And he was responsible for the shirt entirely. Um, I think the backpack was outsourced, if I remember right, but I could be wrong. I have a feeling that Naughty Dog did this as well. Um, but yeah, our role on Last of Us 2 was somewhat of a supporting role where we basically, Naughty Dog was like, we need this, and we're like, okay, we will do it. Yeah, I feel really fortunate to have had the chance to work on these assets because, Ellie is one of my favorite video game characters ever. It was really fun working on the shoes. I I had done a few shoes before that, but like um, I find shoes very fun for some reason. Like um, yeah, I like the topology flow. I like the sculpting and all the adding the rivets, adding the laces and everything. And just learning about their shader pipeline was really interesting. But the kind of bigger aspect of Last of Us 2 that I got to work on was the clothing for the stalkers. So the majority of the stalkers in the game um, that you see, I ended up working on. Um, and what was really interesting about this process was um, I basically would start from an existing asset that Naughty Dog had already in their system, and then I would basically just ruin it. So, adding blood, adding dirt, adding mud, adding sweat, adding other gross things. It was super fun.
Vomit.
Huh?
Vomit.
Yes.
Other
Yeah,
gross
you never
things.
know what's on there. Um, yeah, just like learning the like kind of wear and tear process for creating the like sun bleaching, because these guys have been wandering around for 20 years, 25 years. So their clothing is going to be really, really, really messed up. And ultimately over time, I developed a nice system for my substance file. My substance smart material. I basically developed my own smart material for all of this stuff. And um, yeah, they were really fun to work on. I also basically Naughty Dog had created this part system where they had created a series of stocks, and you can basically just um, kit bash a new stalker based on the new stocks that you place. So
Cool.
I was in charge of that as well. Basically, just creating different designs for the stocks growing out of the guys. Um, I think let's see, this guy was the very first one that I did. Um, and originally these assets are just complete. They're just like, um, they're finished like uh, nice looking shirts and pants, and I just basically take them and tatter them up. A lot of these holes are like using alphas, so it's basically just mostly on the texture. So yeah, that made it kind of like a lot easier. On some of these, we would add fray cards, so like just alpha cards with frays on top of them. Um, but yeah, if you have played the game, uh,
I haven't,
you might,
unfortunately.
huh?
I haven't played the game, unfortunately.
Well, when you do,
But I want
buckle
to
up.
buy. I want to buy the PlayStation 5. I mean, I haven't
Good
played
luck.
video games in like 5 years because of the time, but I want to take
Hmm.
time for that.
Yeah, for sure. I may be a little bit biased, but I love the game. I think it's excellent. Uh, I think Naughty Dog somehow outdid themselves again. And I'm just grateful that I got to play a small part in that. But yeah, here's a screenshot in game. Um, this this stalker here was sculpted by Jaehoon, who I can link you to. He's an artist over at Naughty Dog. Um, Incredible. Like they have a model viewer within the game. You can access it from the main menu, and you can take a look at this. It's one of the, in my opinion, one of the coolest sculpts in the game.
Cool.
But here's my stalker here, and here, there, guy. I hate them. They're terrible. I see them as my ugly, terrible children. Because
Okay.
I have a fondness for them because I spent so much time working on them. But they really they uh they make you really mad. They're terrible.
You
And they're really
feel
scary too. They'll just like
well,
jump
yeah.
out at you. Um, but yeah. I want to bring this up too. One of the big things that Sony helped with Last of Us 2 was in one of the levels there's these traps.
Yeah.
And they're basically stalkers that they have no one to eat, so they go into hibernation.
Oh shit.
And they basically form, the fungus grows out of them and forms along the walls and in the environment. And we were basically responsible for all the traps that you see in the game. And some of them are dead and some of them are not. So it's hard to tell the difference between them. You have to be careful. You have to be on your guard, so you don't get jumped. But
That's
I
gross,
actually
but
worked
it's
on a lot of
amazing.
like the environment art pieces as well, like just creating like huge part kits for the environment artists to just place and use. Um, we basically had, our entire spectrum of disciplines working on this, from character artists to environment artists to material artists, animators, VFX, you know, physics, stuff like that. So it was a huge team effort with this. But I think it's here's one of the dead ones here. But I think it's one of the most terrifying and awesome parts of the game. So
It's
yeah, that was a
it's
really big
crazy.
effort. Um, uh, I will give a spoiler warning for this next one. Do you want me to show it?
Guys, you want a spoiler alert? Let's do it.
Okay. Out of context, it doesn't mean much.
Okay.
Um, but on this first one, this basically, um, they gave me a concept, and then basically I just had to create this corpse. It was kind of fun because the story behind this one is that it's this woman has been basically murdered by a bloater, and if you remember from the first game, they basically like rip your jaw apart. So I basically, took one of Naughty Dog's heads and I just ruined it. It was an
Cool.
interesting challenge. I had never done a corpse, so it was a fun first attempt for that. What's really cool though is they had scanned this body in this position,
Wow.
which made it look really cool. And yeah, I got to see some of the scans that they used for the dead bodies in the game, and I think they looked really cool. This is the beach scene where a lot of these guys are strung up by slavers, and I got to work on some of the slaves here. Basically, again, like we'll be given an asset. We'll be given a shirt or pants or whatever. And all these assets are existing, but basically they're all nice and clean and new. They look great, and then we make them look terrible. And adding sunburns, uh, adding bruises, adding blood, all this stuff. And then we had to pose them as well, and add some dynamics so their clothing kind of waves in the wind, things like that. Yeah, so doing the sunburning was actually like really fun. It sounds
Okay.
disturbing, but it was pretty fun. Um, I kind of I enjoyed doing this.
It looks pretty fun.
Thanks. Yeah, doing blood and stuff is actually weirdly enough I find it fun. And then there's my favorite Trapped Iron Lady. But yeah, we basically did the same thing as we did with the traps, where we worked with the environment art guys and the material guys to execute this scene. They'd give me the ropes and I'd do vertex painting on it, and you know, what was awesome was for the traps, material guys would make a material in substance and we could use it as well, with this where we could make a vertex shader for this, and we basically would paint on here and it would look like kind of wet sand or dry sand, whatever color you use to paint on the vertex. So it's kind of like just using a lot of different methods to bring it together. But yeah, that is the majority of what I worked on for Last of Us 2.
I love it.
But thanks. Yeah. There's a couple other things that I like didn't show because I don't know if they made them into the game, so I don't want to make it
It's
weird.
better
But
to avoid that stuff, you know.
exactly.
NDA is so hard
Yeah.
to
Well,
control.
I was really grateful that Naughty Dog let us show this stuff off because it was a lot of work, and a lot of the stuff that you can show in the end, like, is only a fraction of what you worked on, really. And there's a lot of stuff that we worked on that, like, you know got reused or like changed, and so you can't necessarily use it, but so, and that's one thing to keep in mind is when you're on a production, you're making art for the sake of the project, not for your own sake. And so, um,
Sometimes that's hard to understand.
yes, definitely, where you're like, I worked for like 2 weeks on this. I worked
Okay.
on 3 weeks on this, and it's like not even going to get used. But that's kind of something you have to get used to. It comes with the territory because things change, and time gets run out. Like sometimes things get cut, and it's a little bit painful, but it's all for the sake of the product. So the sake of people's enjoyment. So
That's
yeah.
nice. I want to
Um,
congratulate you because of your work, because of your
Thank you.
career. It's been amazing. I love how you started. I didn't know that you started doing drawings and going to art school and doing animation and start doing 3D, and then we met each other in the course of Adam Scott. Then we got a chance to talk in the Silver Summit, and then
Hmm.
you're flying and getting up and up and up and up, and that's amazing. Your work is so cool, and
I appreciate that.
yeah, thank you very much for being here in the Crowd Life. I really enjoyed this talk, and I really enjoyed uh, everything you were saying. All your path, all your story, all the tips that you're giving to us. It's amazing. All these labs that I've received, because it's so cool. Uh, and yes,
That's the
I
thing. Yeah. Yeah. You sometimes you need someone to just be honest with you. I mean, yeah. I hope that whoever sees this gets at least something out of it. I think at the end of the day, like, um, your path may kind of wind and be, you know, kind of, go all over the place, but ultimately remembering, that what you're passionate about, remembering what you love, and sometimes that may change, and putting yourself out there even if you think you're not ready, because I definitely did that. And it's really scary because emailing someone that you admire is scary, but the worst that can happen is they don't respond.
yeah,
And the best that can happen is that they could give you advice or become a mentor. You never know. So yeah, put yourself out there, and also, like, um, just stay dedicated, like, but also give yourself a break. Like, give yourself some time to play games. Give yourself some time to go outside and go hiking, or when COVID is over, go to a museum, or whatever. Like, give yourself time to recharge, but also stay dedicated, and um, remember how you felt as a kid, with no pressure.
yeah.
That's why we do it.
That's a great advice as well. So, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Muchas gracias a todos los que estuvieron aquí pendientes del live. Muchas gracias por estar conectados. Sé que no es fácil un domingo a esta hora estar despiertos, pero es más difícil para Colleen estar despierta a las 6 de la mañana. I'm saying that it's harder for you to be waking up at 6 in the morning, no?
yeah, it's worth it.
It was worth it, yeah, for sure. So, thank you very much again. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
all
no
of you
problem. Thanks
guys.
for
And
having
this
me.
was Crad Live number 26. And goodbye to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are done.